right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome to our Fireside Chats for Future Ready Instructional Leadership. I'm your host, Dr. Donna, and I am thrilled to have you here to meet yet another visionary educator. Now, imagine yourself by the fireside, a comfortable place where sparks of inspiration ignite and ideas flow freely and connections grow stronger. In each episode, I introduce you to more thought leaders in education where we engage in dialogue about the challenges we're facing and the opportunities that we have ahead of us, along with the bold ideas that are shaping the future of learning. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and join us as we dive into another powerful episode of Fireside Chats. Together, we'll explore ways to ensure every learner thrives with an education that is meaningful, engaging, equitable, and relevant. So today I have my good friend, Marg Lange, who is a global award-winning top business strategist and director of Get the Lead. Sought after by many industries for her out-of-the-box thinking and effective life-centric strategies for business growth. Originally, Marg graduated as a home economics secondary school teacher, majoring in food and nutrition, health, and human development, which after 11 years saw her build the leading home economics department, which was the envy of all the other schools in the suburbs of Southeast Melbourne. So successful was Marg's approach to learning that her home economics department had more time on the timetable than math, as students lined up to take more than one of Marg's units of study. Marg's ability to connect with the most disengaged students, create life-centric, relatable programs catering for individual differences, saw her department grow threefold in 2 years with her at the helm. Leaving teaching in 1994 to open her own event management business with her husband, Marg has never lost the love of teaching. Subsequent businesses that she opened saw Marg run educational workshops, master classes, and an online academy, which I actually had the privilege of enrolling in 2022 and learning how to be a master connector or a super connector. In 2024, Marg decided to go back into the classroom after 30 years of absence as part of her own market research to understand the broken educational system and failing literacy rates, which has been dominating media headlines across the world for years. In her time in both government and private schools in 2024, Marg discovered something much worse, something that's not often talked about in the media. The diminished capacity to focus caused by the addiction to smartphones and screen-based learning, which is building a growing generation of digitally addicted children who have little or no human connection skills when they leave school. So here to speak on this topic with us, the topic of it's time to digitally detox our classroom learning, please welcome Marg Lange.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, Donna. I am so passionate about this topic, and I am on a mission to find a way to get parents on board as much as schools on board this topic.
Yeah, well, it's an important one, right? And with the technology advancing as fast as it has, we've become more and more dependent on our phones, myself included, right? And
I was
so,
just thinking about this before we started, coming on today, and me as well. Every year I'm going to digitally detox. I'm going to not have it in the bedroom. I'm not going to check my notifications as soon as I wake up. I'm not going to check my emails as soon as I wake up. And what do? I check them. And so this topic is close to my heart, mainly because in 2023, I had a burnout crash and I had this mental fog that I couldn't understand. And I really do believe that the cause behind it can be either related to the fact that I was long hours on this thing, the screen, working through weekends on a project, Um, and it really got me into that sort of curiosity behind what was going on with me. And then when I started reading some books on Audible called Stolen Focus, which is all about how Apple and Microsoft, they know what it's doing to us humans of all ages, and they don't care because the job of them is to find different ways to keep our eyeballs on screens because they sell more products and they don't care. So that I was quite outraged by that. And when I went back into the classroom, and the first thing they have all these student profiles because everything's online about each student. And what I noticed is that it started off back 30 years ago, they might have attention deficit disorder, ADHD. That was around 30 years, right? And that's a real thing. But the thing is that has been exacerbated by screens addiction and digital addiction. And so when I was actually looking at the anxious generation, it actually talked about social media and how that has also played into the anxiety of our young. So here I was going back into the classroom. They haven't changed on them. Kids are still kids, but their capacity to focus and what they are doing in class when they should be doing work because COVID has sent everything online.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this is now this it was a lot of work. And it's like, well, it's a lot of work. We're not going back. But the fact is we have to go back because it's not just happening to our kids. Because when I went back in the classroom, what I noticed is that we would have a lunchtime meeting and everyone brings their laptops instead of their lunchbox. And they're not listening to the conversation. They're on doing other things. And it's like, And there's no connection between teachers anymore. And teachers have become very siloed. They don't have to go to the classroom. But no, send an email. So it's a big topic that really makes me feel that I don't know if it's politicians or if it's more so education departments that need to understand that this digital advancement, a technology advancement, is actually impacting our capacity to pay attention, to focus, to retain. So you can have any new system you like. You can go back to basics if you like. You can go back to phonetic reading. You can go back to all of that. But the fact is that the client, the student, is not the same as they were 30 years ago. And that's the problem.
Yeah, and I've noticed in my time in schools, you may have noticed as well, or maybe something different, that even students who are sitting together, many times they're on their phones rather than sitting and talking with each other. You see it in restaurants, you see it in other public spaces where two people are sitting there next to each other, with each other, they came together, but they're not interacting with each other. So are you seeing similar things in the classroom too?
Yeah, back in Australia here, we have a no phone policy, so they have to put it in their lockers. And I was actually talking to Forrest Brosnan, who has this digital detox tool, which I'll talk about with you later. But he said in America, the problem is that phones are desired in the classroom in America because of the gun shootings, and it's the parents that are contacting their kids to see if they're okay, more so than anyone else. It's not like the child is contacting the parent, it's the other way around. Here in Australia, we don't have gun shootings, and so we don't have the necessity to have that contact with phones, although parents still are helicoptering their, this is a big topic, going from free range to helicoptering their their daughters and their sons. So in our school system, it is more the video games, and not only that, it's also the self-directed learning, which is really becoming what I think is a little bit lazy on the teacher's behalf, where it's like, get out your laptop. I want you to click on this link. I want you to Google this. I want you to Google that. And I want you to find out some information. And then the teacher sits back and goes around the classroom or it's death by PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm.
And I call that death by PowerPoint because it's just easy just to put up. This is our learning intention for today. This is the success criteria for the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. And then on goes the PowerPoint, and it's boring as batshit, honestly. So you've got a situation in our country where when I first went back into the classroom, I was on a return to teachers initiative. And what I had to do is I had to observe the first term, which is 12 weeks. So I was in the classroom, in a variety of classroom settings, in a government school, in shock horror because I'm up the back. So I see everyone's laptops. So the teachers talking, they're not talking to each other. They're actually on video games playing because they're addicted. But you're right in terms of when they are together and they're on their phones together. That is true because anytime there's collaborative work, what I saw is the earbuds go in, and let's say group one, you're doing this, earbuds are in, and no one's talking. That's not collaboration. I also found that when I would do group work, and if they're not in the friendship group, there was a resistance. Now, it was like, well, my friend's over there, so I'm going to be doing this, looking at them. And instead of contributing to the group work, I don't really know that person and I don't really know what to say. So I just sit there like this. And that's why I know that when these kids leave school and they get into an office, that's the same scenario, Donna.
Mm-hmm.
A group of strangers, teamwork, and what are they going to do? Are they going to do this?
Right, right. And I think a lot of what you're saying, we do see here in the States too. We have some schools that have a no cell phone policy and the kids are supposed to put it in their lockers when they arrive to school. They still get snuck through. We have some teachers that'll collect the cell phones at the beginning of class, right as the students walk in the door. But then we also have teachers who build relationships with their students and say, I get that sometimes you're going to have an emergency, but during my class, unless I say take out your cell phone because you're going to respond to a prompt that I've got and your information is going to go right up on the board like everyone else's, your cell phones are not being used. And so we have this mixed bag of things that are happening with these digital devices. And, I think there's two pieces that I want to get at with you. One is really, so we have to teach kids, explicitly teach students how to communicate with each other and work with one another and collaborate, what that really needs to look like to prepare them for the future. And at the same time, we also have to be teaching them how to use AI responsibly and how to research responsibly and how do we use technology as a tool because they need all of that out in the real world. There was a time where you needed some tech skills and you needed to collaborate. Now you need both. And so we have to teach
Exactly.
both. And how do we balance that? So you can take whichever direction you want to go in, but does any of that resonate with you? And how do you approach those situations?
So, okay, so what did I do? When I went back into the classroom, given the fact that I was horrified that there was anything from neurodivergent kids to Asperger's to ADHD. And when I arrived at this school, I was a replacement teacher after I did the observation. And I had 14 kids in the class, and it was food tech. And of those 14 kids, we had 8 high learning needs students. 8. That's over half. And so what I was dealing with was a mixed bag of attention spans, capacity to engage, and also a diminished capacity to pay attention. So the first thing I did was I decided that all my theory classes were not going to be just me and the screen. So what I did is I started mixing up my classes. So if they saw me twice a week for theory, then in those classes I would do one where it was absolute, don't need your laptops today, put them over there. Put them over there. And then we would get into, I would actually put the classroom into more of a, around like the Fireside Chat, and try and introduce the topic or the points that I wanted to get across, more so as we're just sitting here having a lovely chat. Now, of course, there was difficulties with that because they couldn't stay on task. So then I had to then think about how I would change that around. So I've got part digital, part non-digital. And so what I did is I created this thing called Who's Going to Be Miss Lange's MasterChef Challenge, which was all about me being able to turn around the behaviours and use the motivational tool, because in this digital world of Microsoft and Apple, they've used this thing here. They go into these little rooms and they have a group of people who understand Skinner's dogs. I don't know, they have pigeons, cats, dogs, doesn't matter. But their job has been, that's why we worked out, we had the notification, you take it out, right? So I had to try and work a way how I was going to, because they get a dopamine hit from every time they're on their devices. So I had to try and find a way of getting a dopamine hit from winning a $60 voucher as Miss Lange's MasterChef extraordinaire. That would give you a voucher to go and take a friend to the movies with popcorn and Coke and all the rest, right? So $60 is a lot for a semester. And so I'd have this leaderboard. They'd come up and they have a leaderboard. Now, what did they have to do to get points? One, they had to show me that they finished their work at the end of the class. So it sort of motivated them to try and beat this addiction of wanting to be over here on their video games and stay on task. That's the first thing. So I started to create a change around the motivation. Rather than being motivated to be on there and the computer and doing video games and addicted, it was like, I really want to go and win that voucher, because we know that kids are truly competitive. So that was the first thing that I did. They had to bring all the tools ready for learning, their readiness for learning. They had to demonstrate that. And even when they go, oh, that's not good, such and such as well, come eating, blah, blah, blah. And I'd say, well, it pays to do your homework, because it's also, if you do your homework and you hand it in on time, you get a point. And even better, you get bonus points if you come up to Miss Lange's hot seat. So do you remember when Shelley used to put us on the hot seat? And because Donna and I were in a networking group, and there was a thing called the hot seat. So I took that idea about the hot seat, and I would just set random questions out of nowhere from any class. And I go, shh, don't help them. 3 bonus points if they get this right. Now, what was interesting is that the group of friends would be wanting to help. It would put them on the spot. It gave them that sense of having to speak confidently and think about what the answer was to get 3 bonus points. And what I found as it went along, we went from, oh, I don't know, get on, I don't care, to actually now I want to catch up with my friends. So I was starting to change behaviors through this process of, and I was doing it non-digital. Yes, I had MasterChef leaderboard up there, but everything that I was doing was basically non-digital. And I would do that at the anytime I had a break in class, I finished early. So I'd say, all right, we're doing hot seat. And I'd have a little sign. Come up to the hot seat, such and such. And I'd think of a random question about the content that we were doing. And that also gave me an opportunity to capture data on how much they're retaining. And what I found as I went along, and they were getting more motivated to be off this and more on the prize, the behavior and the focus started to change. And so did the vibe, the energy, the collaboration in the because so one year A class, because they weren't working well with their partners, I put them with everyone that was a stranger. And honestly, there was resistance. But when I gave them, funny team names, and whether the team, then these strangers who were not wanting to be together suddenly over time wanted to be the best friend and their stranger. And I started to turn this around. So that is one thing that I did that I believe worked well, because one, I got them to focus a little bit more. Two, I tapped into their competitive streak. And three, I started to get them to collaborate with a stranger. And in fact, in the very last session, it was, you can get 6 bonus points. So anyone that's down the bottom, you've got a chance to win here. All you have to do is submit this at the end of the class. There's 1 point. Come up to the hot seat with your partner, 3 + 3, 7 points. And one kid who has very little focus, doesn't, and was doing nothing with, with the best friend, collaborated with this stranger who he rarely talks to, and he stole it at the last minute to the whole class went, no, I won, no, it can't be him. And it was perfect. It was perfect because that kid coming last snatched it right at the end. So that sort of covers both the ways that I think in schools that we can start to prepare our kids by giving these opportunities to be with someone, who's not your best friend, to find ways to get them to work together because it's in their interest.
Right.
So in this team one, they got a voucher of $30 each, right? So you get to go, but your friend's got to pay, but your $30 gets you to buy the popcorn and the Coke. So that's how I did it in terms of teammanship. But I believe that I am looking for a digital detox program out there, because if there is a habit that we have formulated, Donna, to pick this thing up, and it's a habit, we can manage this by creating small snippets of opportunity of habit to build into our classes. Say, I don't know, what is the average class lesson in America? They're probably like us in Australia. We have anywhere from 50 to 65 minutes to 70.
I would say most are probably, if they're on an eight or nine periods a day, they probably have about 40 to 50 minutes in a class period. Sometimes more if they have an extended or a different type of schedule. So
Okay, so in that case, what I'm looking for And I don't have the answer yet because I'm looking for the digital detox program. But I was reading somewhere that if you could have a break after 20 minutes, because even 10, because seriously, all my research that I've done in listening to this stolen focus, which has been designed deliberately by the owners of this, which has pretty much ruined everybody's focus. That the average college student in America can only stay on task, I think it is at the moment 90 seconds. And I
Wow.
think the American adult's 3. That's before your context switching and you're going to actually, I'll just send that text to actually over here. I should have been doing this. This is the attention deficit of us all. The fact is that a goldfish has an attention span of 8 seconds. We have an attention span when someone's talking of about 5. And we know that to be true because have you noticed that on LinkedIn or anyone who's doing video marketing says our videos need to be 30 seconds? Otherwise, you're going to lose them. And you've got to get them in the first, 5 seconds? Otherwise, you lose them. Well, that's the evidence. The amount of people that will say, oh, TLDR, too long, didn't read. Well, whoever's coming up with these 2-minute videos or 30 seconds, or now you had your 1-minute pitch, then it was 30-second pitch. Oh, well, let's see if we can beat that pitch, right? Has now, unfortunately, created this habit that if you have not got hooked me in the first few seconds, I'm not interested. So if we can build it into our classrooms, the ability to have a break that is able to get us to get off the screens, whether we get up and stretch or we do something that, and this is what I'm trying to find out there. So anyone listening, if you've got the answer, please contact me. But something that does make your brain refocus, because in the Stolen Focus book, unfortunately, giving a child this at 10 years of age is actually rewiring their brains. It's scientifically rewiring them. So now we've got a population of brains that have been rewired. And just like anything, we want to lose weight, we want to win the triathlon. I am certain that there is a capacity for our brains to go back to where they were before they were rewired through a management of our relationship with our digital devices and building in these small intervals of habits where we then are not so completely focused. I don't know about you, but I can go a whole day without drinking water or eating if I'm engaged on, and it's not good for the body, it's not good for the brain. And so I know I can be sucked in. So if we as adults need this as much as the kids, right? Because imagine a teacher who's started the day as we do, checking notifications, answering emails, having to do that quick update to keep yourself compliant with the OH&S, all those different online learnings. We go in with diminished capacity to teach. Is the problem. So I just really feel that if we could find this program that has measurable results, and that's what I don't know if it's a psychologist, but anyone out there listening, please send it my way, because I think I would really like to make this policy in classes.
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of different things. over the past few minutes. And one of the things that I'm finding very notable, because I hear a lot from educators that the kids aren't engaged, they can't pay attention, they can't this, they can't that, they're different, they're different, they're different. But what I hear from you is, yes, they're different, so I'm going to do something different. I'm going to work on retraining their brain. I'm going to work on creating those dopamine hits. So you've really looked to the brain science and how you change behaviors rather than just saying the kids can't do this, so let's continue doing education the way we always did and just hope that the kids are going to change. The technology's here. It's not going to go away. So we
Exactly.
have to learn ourselves and teach our students, how do we live with these devices that we can't really live without any longer, but how do we live with them so that our lives aren't taken over by them?
That's right. And that's why we need the parents on board. And it started at 3, wasn't it? Yeah, just sit there like mummy goes and does this. It
Right?
starts way back before school.
Yeah.
So we need the parents on board. And in fact, in Australia, I was reading I think it was the Accenture report, because as a business strategist, and because I do human development, I am fascinated with human behavior. And that is why I like the idea of changing the behavior of the way that I engage, the way I engage with my students in the classes by bringing in these ideas to see what happens. But in Australia, the Accenture report talked about this thing called social rewilding, and Australians are taking the lead. And what does social rewilding mean? It means that the young ones that have been born into the digital era, they're our Gen Alpha, and it's our Gen Z. It's more our Gen Z than our Gen Alpha, but a Gen Z are actually stepping away from the digital. They're lonely. They're lonely. They're lonely. They're isolated. They go into workplace. Everyone's plugged in as soon as they get there. No one talks. There's no relationship building, and they are finding that they don't like being online and people knowing their business. They're sick of being in the online chat. That's actually an exciting thing for a 15-year-old or a 14-year-old, but when they get to about 21, 22, they're a bit done with it. They've moved on from school. Yeah, they still have their chat groups, but they're not as engaged in the chat groups. It starts to wear thin. And so this social rewilding is a life trend that we're seeing in Australia, where Australians are reevaluating their whole relationship with technology. So some of the things that the report was saying that they're noticing is that these young ones, and my daughter Ruby she's 26, she's a Gen Z. She didn't go dating on a dating app. That's one thing they're doing. They're going, I don't want to meet someone on a dating app. I want to meet someone in person. The other life trend of social building is these young Gen Zs. I put it on LinkedIn the other day. There was this young Aussie bloke going, I didn't go out New Year's Eve. I decided not to even be out. And what do we do on New Year's Eve? And someone goes, mate, you didn't miss anything, because he says, I've got life goals. Jen said, are realizing that being in this whole digital vacuum is not helping them get their first home, is not helping them win that job, is they're starting to wake up. And so the relationship with technology in our Gen Z in Australia has seen this trend of wanting to get off this and back into that real texture and feeling and interaction with nature and people. There is a lot of changes that are being made. So it's interesting to see Gen Z were the first digital natives. Yes, they are, and they're very savvy, and they laugh at us boomers. The TikToks are great. I love them, and it's true. But they are finding that they are feeling isolated. Their cup isn't filled, and they're making these subtle changes of stepping away from the digital, right? Now we've got our Gen Alpha coming through, who have again been raised in the digital, but they're now going to be more so savvy, more digitally, even more savvy than Gen Z. And so the risk here is that will they go down a rabbit hole of even more damage to their brain as AI comes in, where they don't have to read, they don't have to think, they don't have to speak. They've got that to be, sort of like done for you. And then you've got the Gen Beta, which are currently, I think, 0 to 3 or 4 years of age, who are now growing up in an AI world, which, can I do a bit of a scoop here, Donna?
Go for it.
An ad break? All right, so we're having a global summit that bringing to Melbourne in 2025. It's flagged for June, and we'll be going to be looking at this whole AI technology and its impact on business and technology day one with the environment and sustainability. But I can't wait to get to day two, because day two is all about health and well-being and education. What are we setting our kids up? Is this whole embracing AI and technology and the way that it's now impacting us as humans and our human consciousness, are we doing the right thing by our kids? Because I know there are some I was on a school excursion, and this science teacher said to me, "Oh my God, Marg, I love AI. I get to write all my emails." I was shocked. You write all your emails using AI. I hope he fact checks it. But it just got me wondering about where all of this is going. And is it a form of abuse? Because in a way, it is a form of abuse to, not that you're aware as a parent that you're babysitting your child and then you bitch and complain because, give me eye contact, get him off that phone. Well, you created it. You put this in the hand of the child, so you're part of the problem. So this is not just a school issue, Donna. It is a partnership of parents going, you know what? I get what Marg's saying. I'm done with this too. I know it's affecting me. It's affecting my relationship with my child. My child's not learning. And it's a real problem, not just in our family home, but also I don't want to be called up to the principal and saying, oh my God, she's not doing it. I don't like that either. So I think we have to sit down with parents, with the schools, and this has to be a partnership because it's not going to work. Otherwise, you'll have what happens at school and then they go back to it. And you've got to have an agreement because as Forrest Brosnan rightly said, he's the CEO of Digital Detox. He said, digital detox retreats do not work. It's like any habit. It's like these small things that crept up over time, whether it's weight, whether it's, how you talk to your wife. Didn't talk like that in the beginning. All these ways that we are changing how we behave, and these habits happened in small little increments over time. So what we need to do is to, again, address our digital management of our addiction with small little snippets in the way that what we do in school, we mirror at home. So we don't go, oh, well, school's done, and we go back to, get off your phone. Oh, sorry, I'll be there in a minute, I'm just texting, right? Says the parent.
Right.
Because, it just won't work.
Yeah. So if we're a parent or a community member or teacher or administrator or, you know, what have you, and we want to learn more about digitally detoxing, where do we go?
Well, good question. I think it's important that you do read the research that happens with Stolen Focus because the owner of the book, Johan, forgotten how to say his last name. That's why I don't say the author, Johan. He has got some conclusions there that will help. You could go to Forrest Brosnan's website, digitaldetox.com. Donna, why don't you put yourself through the Dora score to see how you come up with your addiction? I've done it. I've
Okay.
realized it. I've got my own score. But the thing is that the Dora score from the digitaldetox.com with Forrest, I think he's in LA, I think he is. But digitaldetox.com, when you go on there, this tool can go to schools, and what it does is it tests every student at every year level to find out what their degree of addiction is. It gives a report of recommendations with tips for the school. However, there's no program. That's where it falls short, and that's why. So get yourself onto digitaldetox.com, read Stolen Focus, and also I would say read The Anxious Generation, which is all about the social media side of the um, problem, to addiction to phones. But more so, I would like people to actually reach out to an ambassador from Canada. Her name is Professor Charlene Doick Gauber, Gabeur, who has an award-winning documentary called Vulnerable Innocence, 25 awards it's won, talking about video games that these kids are in classroom, everybody, in classroom, and these video games that they're addicted to, in the chat groups, in those private rooms, are lurking those predators. And they are, unfortunately, with AI, getting very clever at making everyone think that they're 14 when they're not. And so I think there is a bit of a package here. I've been wanting to work with Forrest Brosnan and Digital Detox, Dr. Charlene Galba. I'm going to try my best to find the answer. I'm going to go back to Stolen Focus because he did say that there was someone in New Zealand. We've got to find that person, Donna. Someone in New Zealand that is doing something like this and it's working. And it's working. So I would really like to, because I think if we can understand that our kids are digitally savvy, they get around the school servers to get on the server that allows them to play video games and chat to predators when they really should be doing their maths work.
Yeah, our students are really savvy, and even the best network security settings that you can put on, kids are able to find their way around it. They
They
are
are.
really savvy,
They are.
pretty incredible. So,
So that is, and if you want to help me out,
yeah, I was gonna say, how do people get a hold of you if they've got questions or want to engage more with you?
yes, because I particularly am on a quest to disrupt. Since I got in the top 50 disruptors list, I really want to bring this to Australian schools. So if you know someone that you can connect me with that's doing work in this area, I would really love to, because there's no point us, as we said at the beginning, did we? No point changing educational theories, strategies, whatever, if this is not working. So link in with me, Marge Lange, on LinkedIn, or just go to my website. Show me how to get the lead today is my website address. And I just like to thank you for the opportunity to talk about this topic, which I think is really, no one's talking about it. Everyone's talking about other things in instructional leadership for education. But as much as that might be cutting edge, unless we address the rewiring of the brain The behavior habits, the addictions, none of it's going to work.
Well, we really appreciate this important topic and for you having the passion to be able to come on here and talk to us about that. And I think you're right. I think it's something that I think people are aware. I think there's a concern, but it's not at the forefront of we have to address this before we address that. And so that's a really interesting and important insight that we need to be thinking about. So I really want to thank you for coming on, and I encourage listeners to reach out to Marg if you've got more questions or if you have connections for her to help along with the work. We know that no one person can change our educational system by ourselves. And, me here in the United States, introducing you to someone from Australia, these problems are also happening in other countries as well, obviously. So while our systems might be slightly different or majorly different, we're still dealing with human students, right? And
Right.
those challenges that we see, they're very similar. So we may have different systems, but I think we still have way more in common than I think we'd like to realize. And I think solving our challenges in education, we have to do it together. We've got to get all the brightest
Right.
minds and disruptors like Marg Lange to
Hence, I'm looking for people who would like to speak on this topic to come to our global summit
awesome.
in Australia. So I really want anyone who's in education who has a concern about technology might have the answer. I would like that speaker to come. We've got Dr. Charlene will be closing as a keynote, but we've got a slot for someone who wants to talk about education and where we're going, we going in this world with education. So I still have a slot open for that as well.
Fantastic. Well, everyone connect with Marg, and thank you so much for tuning in again. Thank you, Marg, for joining us. Um, that is all we have for today. But we want to thank all of our listeners for your commitment to boldly leading our schools and to ensuring that learners are prepared for the world beyond what we can even begin to imagine today. If today's discussion sparked an idea, a question, a strategy, or even someone that you know of that's involved in this work and you want to make a connection, I encourage you to take it back to your teams, your schools, your communities, make those connections wherever you can. This is where the real transformation begins. Together, we're shaping the future of education, one fireside chat at a time. Until next